Welcome back to Fast Market. I'm Alex Coffey alongside Kevin Hinks. Kevin, things all over the place here, shuffling around. Dow, at least in the futures, back in red territory here. The S&P's down about 1/3%. NASDAQ and Russell neck and neck as they jostle for position here. Kev, is that the market to watch, maybe alongside the bond market? Kind of this basis between the NASDAQ and the Russell as it continues to kind of shuffle back and forth. You have a little bit, as you can see here, Russell outperformance, but this spread is flying around on an intraday basis and over the last few weeks. Just incredible volatility in the divergence between these two stock market index futures in the U.S.
Alex, look at the chart of the NASDAQ over the last few months, and a rotation out of some of these names that have run into earnings again this quarter sounds awfully responsible and natural for me. So the fact that the NASDAQ is starting to rotate out of and into other sectors, no, that sounds pretty responsible with where the NASDAQ has run. I mean, look at Apple's chart over the last few weeks. It has gone almost straight up off a pretty strong consolidation there for a while. So, I think people rotating out of some of these names and into others, the fact you see industrials and banks and even airlines strong today means they're rotating out of some things and into others, Alex. I think it's perfectly healthy.
Kevin, speaking of charts that have gone straight up, that's the perfect transition here for us as I welcome in our guest for our hashtag segment. We got in studio joining me is TD Ameritrade Network contributor Jenny Horn, and joining us from LikeFolio.com is the co-founder Landon Swan. Target has gone straight up. I mean, I can't find a chart that is more parabolic, I don't think, in this market outside of the tech space than Target.
No kidding. And it's actually, I think, just hit new all-time highs today as we speak. I mean, now it's a little bit lower, but it is one of these names that I just feel like goes up and up and consistently hits new 52-week highs. And actually, I like that you mentioned that the chart looks so strong, because I was looking at it year to date relative to Walmart, and it has seen some degree, I mean, both the stocks have gone up, but some degree of outperformance. And I think this is important when looking at these names, because Walmart, according to the National Retail Federation, in 2020 was the largest retailer in terms of sales. Target comes in at number 8. So oftentimes I kind of feel like Target has sort of become the underrated retailer of these big box names when comparing to, say, an Amazon and a Walmart. But really, when you look at the historically, it has really done such a good job to sort of embrace the shift to digital and sort of transform its business to compete with some of these massive companies. While there's still a good amount of risk with these big box retailers, I really think that further growth for all of these names could be justified. Target has generated an average annual return of 24% over the last 4 decades. So historically, it has performed so well. And now it's returned about 80% since February of 2020 when it saw these pandemic lows. So it's really just been on such a strong upward trajectory, not only in the last year, but over the last 40 years, according to its reports. Now, when looking at this group of retailers and comparing Target, a lot of times it sort of gets less attention than Target, Costco, Walmart, because a lot of people say it can't compete with these behemoths. It can't compete with the loyalty that Costco has. But really, if price and efficiency were the only thing that mattered, luxury items wouldn't exist altogether. I think it's really important to make the case that a lot of people don't actually want to buy in bulk or pay membership fees or say only shop online like Amazon, or there's still this sort of negative stigma around Walmart that I don't think it's fully shaken yet. So I think then that's where Target has really positioned itself to be one of the strongest retailers over the last decade and going forward. And that brings me to our first tweet of the day, which says, between the two, I feel like most would argue that consumers will shop at the closest location to them, but I have the suspicion that Target leveraged city-based locations to build brand loyalty among millennials, and now they're staying loyal as they move into mass to the suburbs. Now, I could not agree with this more, because while I am not a Target super fan, I feel like among my friends, this is a name that people just flock to. People love to talk about their experiences at Target, how much they love Target, how much they spend at Target, and I have to think that's going to be positively reflected as millennials are now the largest demographic sort of in the market and with the most buying power. And our next tweet talks about just how loved Target is, which says, 2 places that are always packed no matter when I go, Heinz and Target. Now, I don't think we have Heinz here because I'm not really sure what that is, but Target undoubtedly is always packed. So, Landon, I have to assume that your purchase intent data on Target is strong because I really could only find super positive noise on social media today.
Yeah, things are going pretty well for Target. Like you said, all-time highs today. Maybe they're a point off or something like that right now. But the stock has been just parabolic, kind of a founder's dream as far as the chart that you present to VCs. This is what we think we might be able to do over the next 10 years. Well, they've actually done it. Really impressive growth. And, you talked about happiness and the sort of the stigma at Walmart, and the data shows that time and time again. Right now, we've got happiness for Walmart right around 55%, Target at 67%. And considering how closely these two companies are in their operations, that is a significant lead. I mean, 12 points is huge. And everyone kind of knows it. It's something that people joke about, but it's actually borne out in the data. It's not just you and your friends that think that it's better to go into a Target than Walmart. It's everyone in the country. And I think that is a big factor for Target's success and why Walmart has, sort of struggled a little bit. Now, obviously, the company's doing very well, Walmart, but they're not at all-time highs. They're about, 12 points off all-time highs right now. So not quite as well as Target. Both companies are doing well, but I think that long term, one of the things that we have found at LikeFolio is that happiness is a longer term indicator versus something like purchase intent. Purchase intent says, I'm in the store right now, or I just bought this, or I'm just ordering on Shipped or whatever it may be, Walmart.com. Whereas happiness is saying, I liked my experience, I didn't like my experience, which means down the road, next time I'm choosing to go to the store, I'm more likely to choose to go to Target. And that kind of thing is sort of exponential. It's going to build on itself more and more over time. So I think this is a big element that Walmart's got to fix.
Landon, the real discussion now with these big box retailers is not the big box versus the mom and pop, retailer or grocer. That's done, right? That conversation is over. But now it's the conversation with big box versus big box. And my question is it a binary choice, or can you do both? I think the answer, based on your data, the answer is still yes, it's both. Some people like Walmart, some people like Target, but all people like one or the other or both. And I can say in the last 2 weeks, I've been in both stores, Walmart and Target, and I like each of them for different reasons. And isn't really the choice among Target, Walmart, Costco, Amazon, right? And it's one of those four or all of those four, really, if you think about it. But my question to you, Landon, is this is not a binary choice, is it? You can choose all of them. It's like your Netflix. It's like your streamers. You can choose them all, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know if an individual is going to go to both very frequently. They're most likely to pick one, but there's enough individuals that, yeah, they can all survive. And I think a lot of that has to do with what happened in 2020. I mean, that was a death blow for many, many small businesses out there. Things were set up very poorly for them. And, Targets and Walmarts were essential when they were not essential. They had to be closed. And a lot of companies went out of business or struggled. And this was the time to be a very large company. It was a great year, 2020, and so far 2021 have been great years for large companies and terrible for small businesses. And so, of course, they're going to benefit. And if you knock all those small businesses out, then, yeah, there's so many people in the country, they've got to shop somewhere. I think there's enough. The pie is big enough to split it up among these different stores. Now, what's interesting is, we're talking about how well Target does versus Walmart on the happiness perspective, but Walmart's got about 2.5 times the number of stores in the U.S. alone. So they've got a huge footprint. But when you look at digital mentions, people shopping online or using digital fulfillment in different ways, Walmart Plus, Walmart.com, or Shipped, Target has actually taken the lead. And if you focus, I know it's easy to focus on the right side of this chart, but if you actually go back to the end of 2017, way over there on the left, you can kind of see the two lines were very close to each other. Then all of a sudden, Target's line, that red line, bumped up and it took the lead and it never looked back. That was their acquisition of Shipped. So that has been a huge, huge driver for them and has increased happiness, increased digital fulfillment, and it was a very good strategic move. So both companies are doing well when you look at digital mentions versus 2 years ago, before anyone was thinking about curbside or getting things delivered. COVID was great for that, just pushing people onto that. Target's up about 32% versus 2019, Walmart 27%. But really what sticks out is that acquisition of Shipt going back 4 or 5 years ago, to the end of 2017, when that made Target take the lead in digital fulfillment. And again, they just haven't looked back. I think that was a huge move for them. And I'm interested to see if this upcoming partnership with Ulta is going to have the same impact that the Shipt did on Target's digital fulfillment.
That's a really good point, Landon, because I know that the Ulta is coming to Target soon. It's this fall, I believe, because I haven't seen any yet. And I do go into both of these stores and I order from Amazon. So I'm sort of the person that orders, from all three of these names. I do have to applaud Walmart and Target for really how well they've competed with Amazon. I feel like it's sort of been a story we may not have foreseen a few years ago. But I'm curious, based on your data, if there's really any seasonality or anything you're seeing right now ahead of this back to school season, because I have to think that, with so many people not back at school last year, that there's a lot of pent up demand. People are excited to buy things and school supplies that say they didn't need over the last year.
Right. That's a great point. So, normally we say back to school around August, and that means you're coming back from, a few months off in the summer. But this year's back to school means something completely different, at least for, I hope, most of the kids in the country, where they're actually going to be able to go back to school that they didn't go to maybe at all last year, maybe since a year and a half, the end of 2020. A lot of kids got pushed out of school March and April. And so this is actually a time where, you're right, they've got outdated school supplies, they've got outdated clothes, and it's time to go back and, go into schools and start learning in person again. So this is a huge back to school season. Actually, one of the things that we do at LikeFolio is we put out a huge trend report every month. And this month, we're actually focusing on back to school. So we've got a ton of great insights into that. And normally you would think it should come out in August, but we've got some early winners already. I do think that just based on the digital fulfillment data that we've got, Target showing a lead there, the happiness data that we've got, Target showing a lead there, I've got to think that this is going to be not only a bigger back to school season, but I think that Target is going to do better during this back to school season.
Landon, and a lot of that probably has to do with Target's focus on the in-store experience as well. They've certainly invested a lot of that prior to the pandemic and really changed, the demographic shift in terms of taking advantage of the millennial population. I know within my social circle, probably a lot, like Jenny is getting at as well, that people enjoy going to Target. You don't hear that about Walmart. And it's not that they don't go there. It's not that they don't enjoy, making their purchases at Walmart. But Target, in many ways, is carved out for a day. It's a morning for them. They get their Starbucks. They walk around. They go to the home and garden section. They buy stuff. But to me, that's very discretionary, and that's very, a part of the market that you're going to do when times are good. That sounds like a part of kind of a day that you would do if security, economically, everything is going well. Walmart, to me, is more of a play on scale and far more of a staple than maybe Target is. So is that where the difference between these two companies really is highlighted, is that Target maybe will outperform when times are good, but Walmart might be a little bit more resilient when times aren't so good?
Maybe. I think you've got to get some pretty bad times, though, to get the people that really love to shop at Target to say, you know what, I want to save 5 or 10% and go to Walmart. I think your budget's got to be really constrained to make that choice, because Target has a wide selection of products and prices. You can go, a little bit higher end in Target, or you can go a little bit cheaper. Whereas Walmart, I think you're more focused on the budget conscious stuff. So I think it's got to be pretty bad times to say, you know what, forget Target, I'm switching over to Walmart. I really think that there's just, sort of two types of people, one that likes to go to one store, one that likes to go to the other. I'm interested to see, and this is something I want to see LikeFolio dive into, is crossovers where people, are normal shoppers at one, and how do they react when they go to the other? My suspicion based on happiness is if a traditional Walmart customer goes into a Target, they are more likely to switch than vice versa. So I think that's really important, is that happiness factor. I don't think the bad times are going to push people over to Walmart, and hopefully we don't answer that question. But I do think they'd have to be pretty dire in order to make a huge switch, like where you go every day.
Good stuff. Or everything's online. It's all kind of the same then. Amazon kind of showed us that. But Landon, we'll leave it there. At least on a data side, Target looking stronger than Walmart, but the stock charts look the same. Target outperforming by about a 5-to-1 margin since 1/1/20. The co-founder of LikeFolio.com, Landon Swan, thank you as always. All right,